While everybody sits and try not to fall asleep, go get some coffee. And I'm gonna leave something for you to decide. This is the most important question of the whole workshop. That's gonna define who you are. And we're gonna do some segregation around that. So people that always would wear Crocs and people who always wear socks and sandals. It's very important that you have this well-defined. Otherwise, yes. Yeah, because people on the internet also wear. No exception. Forever. That's forever means forever. Okay, now it should be working if it hasn't working yet. My bad. Okay, here, good. So would you rather always wear Crocs or always wear socks and sandals? And you must, okay? That's more important than the trolley example. No, both, just one. Come on, that's ethical. I don't know what you're expecting. The code is the same as the first one. Give me a second. Should be this one. 34354759. It's the main one. Is it working? Yep. Okay. Thank you. It's a tie so far. Interesting. Okay, there we have a very 50-50 kind of crowd. I think I can move forward and tell you the right answer. There is a right answer. In this case, there's a right answer, okay? What's the right answer? Sorry, it depends. Ed. A lot of it depends. I don't bring this over here. Right, I get annoyed. Okay, so the right answer is option C, which is socks with Crocs. So yeah, that's the only right answer. The best or the worst of both worlds. And we're gonna go straight to a case study. Before I go to that case study, let's just recap quickly the strategies we saw on the first part. I should have created slides. Okay, strategy. So now when you're thinking about those case studies, I want you to think on that context. Okay, let's use some tools that you learned today. Those are team diversity, fairness research in machine learning, and robust ethical AI frameworks, which can happen through this. So all of that, that's all part of the robust AI framework. Any of those will count. I just want to see them, the solution. Okay, I want to apply the things you learn on that. Now, on this first case, it's not a medical. We're going to finish the last case study on a medical one, quite broad, and that one going to work together. This one going to work again in separate groups because I liked that conversation and have a different perspective and can spend more time in one specifically. What is the background? Okay, the background is a company who wants to train and deploy facial recognition tool. This tool detects whether or not a face is present and identifies whose face is it. Now they have access to an enormous database of photos to train, like enormous, like think huge. highly skilled machine learning scientists and engineers, and a large amount of computational power. Also say that they can do it, but okay, it's powerful. Now they want to use the tool in several of their own products and to sell the API access to their tool to other interested parties. API, for those that do not know, is an application programming interface. Basically, it is, how's the easiest way to explain? You give access to your tool without giving your tool. It's like you give a query, they get your query. Okay, that's the result. That's Jimmy, and return Jimmy back to them. And they don't have access to the product. They do not see the product, but they can have access to the results of the product. AI, that's API access. So how can you use that? Okay, I'll close this. So they can use, I mean, you're already using that to unlock device, to identify individuals, to better organize photos, to find photos on on the internet. So organized photos already, if you use Google Photos, you can search for things like street or car, and I'm gonna show everything there is. So using applications that, and identify individuals in the event of crimes captured on CCTV. Now, who are the relevant stakeholders here? Yes. Yeah, us, we, the population that we're going to be affected by it. Who else? Important stakeholders here. The company, the business leaders that are going to sell this, stakeholder for sure. And who else? The people that use the API. Who else? The government, yes, the government, yes. Okay, still users, like in that sense, who do not want to use it. People that do not want to use it. I want one key one that is missing. Yeah. So who's gonna use the API access also? And the other one that I wanted just to bring forward is the machine learning engineers. We have machine learning experts, and they are a stakeholder because, you know, especially on the ethics setting, as we be working together, your own bias works on that, and you are the person constructing it. One is the person that is paying for it, but one's the person actually constructing it. So we're going to follow those three perspectives. You're going to group the users together as one on the end users, the people that are interacting with the applications, and also API users, the organizations who want to leverage the tools in their products and service, which is kind of a user. We're going to do in three groups again. We're going to do 5 minutes of concerns on the work cloud, and then 5 minutes on strategy. I think this is working now. It's the same as before. So at this point, you use 2 QR codes, one for the icebreakers and one for the specific ones. It's just a follow-up, so it should be working. If anyone can give me a thumbs up, that's working. It is, okay. So group 1 is gonna do the software. Yeah, wait. Here, this one. Let me see if it's working. User where potential, yeah. Who users? So group 1 users, API users, and general users, and people people online. Please also do for users. Now, second group is gonna do for business leaders, which is this middle row here, and then the people all over there, which is not the middle, to my right. You're gonna do the machine learning engineers. So think on machine learning engineers' perspectives. What are their potential ethical governance and fairness concerns for them specifically? And then business leaders and users. And I'm going to return to this. So menti.com, and then you can either you type the code. I think the QR code is working as well. So I fixed it. 5 minutes. You're also welcome to talk. It's quite silent. I know everyone's sleepy after the lunch. Okay, one more minute. Group one is to catch up, which is also people online, also talking with you. Okay, now we're gonna move to the next part, which is the strategies that you learn and hopefully you're gonna remember. So let's see the strategies for the users, strategies for the business leaders, and for the machine learning engineers. What? Last minute. All right, let's check the results. Starting with the users. They listed privacy as the biggest one, which is, I'm happy to see it. Obviously, privacy is a good one. Underrepresentation, it's a good one. So they're collecting the amount of photos of one group might be different from the others. Duplicating data, fairness, good. Traffic, security, false negatives, inclusivity, accuracy, and nonsense in face usage. Yeah, what are they using for? What are the strategies they came up with? Negotiated transparency between the API and company providing software. Face recognition with face gesture to ensure user is conscious. Good point. Yes. Iris recognition check the status of individual. Grouped face for trans people, aging people, people in accidents. Okay, good. And iris recognition as well. I'm going to talk about the results later. Let's just go through all the answers. For the business leaders, same, accuracy and privacy are big ones here. We also see liability, transparency, what data sets use, cost, financial ethical uses, privacy rule, fairness, data access, good. Intersectionality, good. Security of data, and who can access it. Good. Let's see the strategies. Oh, love us answers. Good. A more diverse data set, secure data, consultation with ethics experts, the third party, it's a good one. Ensure that the data is secured in every stage, lots of test trials, gain a large and updating data set, educate users in its limitations, so education is an important one. Screen customers for usage, lawyers again. As a business, prioritize ethics into the business model. Good, thank you for whoever put that one. Ensuring the company is transparent about how they use the data, keeping the data accessible, collaboration with experts, ethical framework with the committee, or one person who can ensure fairness. Perfect example. Whoever did that, great job, you get an A. And finally, for machine learning engineers, a lot of data here. Data availability, data coverage, consequences, misuse of the product, bias into code, personal biases, limitations of the data set, how data is stored, data leak, for sure, inclusivity, implementation regulation, how is the data collected, also important, accountability of the product. If it fails, are we blaming the machine learning engineers? Lots of answers, great. So secure data server, increase accountability, anonymize data, sorry, ESL again. Data augmentation, preventing data hoarding, policies owned to transparency, open source, route encourage, decentralization, accountability, limitations, limiting malicious use, like with ChatGPT, good point. Make an attempt to have a balanced data set, be transparent about data collected, very good. Transparency, clear project scope, open data, open code, regulations, advisory boards. Very good, very good. Good job. Now let's see what I have as answers. So for business leaders, does the tools perform well for all types of faces? Because if I get the data from Brazil and apply on India, it's not going to be the same. Who has access to the API? is, law enforcement using my business is, there's so many wrong ways of using that. Do you have a policy for who can access the API and for what purpose? Does your tool perform well in situations where it might be used? And what sort of performance guarantees do you have? The engineer concerns is, does your training data look like the data on which the model would be deployed? Does the model perform equally well across all ethnicities, genders, ages, etc.? Do you have a strong framework in place for testing your model in adversarial settings? Are the techniques you are using taking into account state-of-the-art research on fairness in machine learning? And do you have built-in safeguards to how the API can be used? Finally, for the user concerns, does the tool work for all types of faces? I think you've seen, like, when iPhone was first doing that face unlock, there's so many things that people were testing, twins, and I think you remember that part, the conversation that happened. What if I'm incorrectly recognized? If you're using for CCTV and for looking for criminals, what's the consequence here? Can I choose whether my face is recognized or not? And as a user of the API, do you know about how the model was trained? Can you verify the performance and the bias of the model? And what happens to the data you input to the API? You can say, hey, take this picture. Who is this person? And then they keep the picture, right? Again, this is a real world example that happened. And that's not a good story. So probably already know a lot of data sets we have around, a lot of tools like the Google one. But the one that I'm talking specifically relates to the Clearview AI tool, which was a company. It was a startup, US, founded in 2016, that has been developed a facial recognition application intended to serve a search engine for people's identities. They have already collected over 10 billion images by scraping Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and more. Very likely, all your pictures are in this data set. In January of last year, the company platform was awarded a US patent after performing nearly perfectly in the facial recognition vendor test hosted by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. The founder claims that perform intents of only serve government users for law enforcement applications, and to avoid any misuse of the application, they will refrain from making a consumer version of Clearview AI, which is already by default the problem. But anyway, the question is whether or not the law enforcement would misuse the application. That right off the bat. The database, we have 100 billion faces, basically every person in the world. And the issue started with Europe. So when we started talking about regulations, Europe is the one that's further on the regulation side. Specifically in France, they recently been fined with 20 million euros on France because they collected French people pictures, and they have a regulation around that, so they have to pay a fine. So the thing is, in March of last year, a new company was founded, and a researcher found pictures of him in this data set, which was collected through Clearview AI. So somehow the pictures that were never up to be used by consumers for like everyone is there. Now the impacts, negative media coverage. So these real world examples all result in significant media coverage, undermines the confidence of company, potential real damage to individuals, and can result in unwanted increased regulation. One thing that, let me see. one thing that I like to say when undermines confidence in a company, and that's not on company, but also undermine negative media coverage on AI, is that it's not a bad idea, right? Like overall, it could be great. For instance, there are research around where using face recognition to find missing people around the world. And that's amazing, right? I mean, it's a great tool, and there's so much of human traffic, and we want to use that to stop that. But now an application like that, it's going to be viewed in a bad way because for misuse of technology. So what could have been done in this case? All the strategies seen before. So implement a process of thinking through ethical concerns and addressing them, such as having a wide range of diverse stakeholders and many conversations around potential users. I don't think, doesn't sound like they talk with people that, us. I don't remember being consulted before my teacher being there. Clear policies on how tools and API can be used, process of verifying, identifying who used the API, rigorously test model on sensitive demographics subset of the data, and use state-of-the-art research on fairness, not just state-of-the-art computer vision models. Now, we should always consider if we should create systems, not only if we can. This means examining both the beneficial applications, but also the potential harmful ones, and implementing safeguards for those potential harmful applications. Now, the point I want to bring is that actually that happened, it's affected us, the Canadians, and people live in Canada, because the RCMP use that too. I don't know if you knew that, but that's being there. RCMP no longer is using after that. Yeah, because that violated the Privacy Act that we have in Canada, which I'm going to talk about, but actually affected all of us. Now we can talk about regulations, fun part. Yeah. Okay, so regulations, there's existing and emerging regulations. And again, Europe is the leading one in that area. They're leading with the World 11 regulations. They have the Digital Service Act, the AI Act, and the General Data Protection Regulation that combat online illegal content and regulate the online environment in the EU. There also is worth mentioning emerging efforts in the United States, which is very specific, the industry specific regulations. They want to do something that is similar to FTA for the AI. Again, still initial steps. It's worth mentioning the effort. Now, what about Canada? So Canada has an ecosystem of private and public sector data regulation. So data specifically regulation, and that's why that RCMP usage of data was kind of problematic, and they stopped using because the Privacy Act violated that. But there is now a bill C-27 that is more comprehensive. That introduces the Consumer Privacy Protection Act, the Personal Information and Data Protection Tribunal Act, and the Artificial Intelligence and Data Act. So the bill provides a modernized and stronger privacy and data protection legal framework in Canada. So it's important to clarify the distinction between ethical obligations and legal compliance obligations, and to emphasize that the gap continues to narrow, and that good practice that are optional today will likely be mandatory in the future. So as a business leader, you want to be ahead of the curve and not wait for a regulation to happen around your application, but have those strategies we talk about. Make sure you're already in place when it happens. It's much simpler for you, and it's going to save you money by being ahead of the curve, because they're going to happen, right? And now with ChatGPT, it's a matter of time. Okay. Now I'm going to go to our final, yes. Yeah, I tried to read the review. It's quite convoluted. For all I know, it coverages both storage and usage. I think that's something that happened now with Netflix, by the way, you know, with the whole conversation, Netflix stopping the password sharing. So how were they gonna know if you're sharing a password? With what? Multiple logins, but how do they know it's logged in the same place or not? The IP address, and they cannot do that in Canada. So people can push back. We'll see what happens. Just saying. Okay, but that's one of them. And there's also, I think, the right to be forgotten, which is something that also in Canada that we have. It's include that, like the right to not to be in a data set. Yes, but companies are also doing business in Canada, but have commercial relations external, has to be aware of others. So for instance, Europe is a bit more restricted. So that's why the clear view that it's US was fine in France. Also, Bill 27, C27 is yet to be approved. And one thing that needs to be made very clear, regulation is coming, but there's so much to catch up, right? Like the ChatGPT, it's one thing, but the Bill 27 is like still trying to catch up. It will come, but I think it's important for us to be part of the conversation on this bill that's being constructed. And I'm going to talk about how we can do that. But let's go for our last case study. Do we have time? We do have time. Where AI assists the healthcare decision making. So the idea is a health organization, a hospital, is considering the use of AI to assist healthcare professionals in making better decisions. The goal of the AI system is to provide healthcare professionals with better insights and decision-making tools to improve patients' outcomes. AI will be applied mostly on images, okay? So X-rays, CT scans, MRIs, ultrasounds. And there are 20 years of historical data in the hospital. The model informs anomalies on images to healthcare professionals. That's the intent of usage. So example scenarios, I'm not gonna read all of them. There's many ways you can find that. Diagnose fractures, lung disease on X-rays, anomalies on CT scans, such as cancerous tumors, signs of Alzheimer's on MRI and PET scans, ultrasound images to detect signs of fibrosis, and also something with the eye. Okay, who are the stakeholders here? Hint is the same as the first example, the first they said. So the first case study, what were they? Patients, the healthcare professionals. Yes, but I'm going to skip that for now. I'm going to use insurance companies again, because money drives things and we cannot ignore the fact. And I think I always have to be part of the conversation. Now, healthcare professionals, they want to improve patient outcomes, reduce medical errors, increase efficiency in providing medical care. They see the use of AI as an opportunity to enhance their work and provide better care to patients. Also, they're usually very overworked. It'll be very good for them if they could prioritize the ones, patients to receive the best possible medical care and minimize the risk associated with medical procedures and achieve positive health outcomes. Insurance companies make money. Now, we're going to do this one together as a group. Here, I'm prepared now. This and this, which is the other one that you haven't used before. It's the same one for the would you rather. Is it working? Thank you. So we're going to start with healthcare professionals. What are their concerns? If you don't have a cell phone, you can also say out loud, by the way. Accuracy, reliability, accountability. I think accuracy relates to accountability. As a healthcare professional, if you take a decision based on an AI system, are you accountable for that? And it's important because they do have to be accountable. And then there's a whole thing on how doctors are accountable for decisions. If you're putting AI in the mix, how does it affect it? Patient information, costs, misdiagnosis, some professionalism, data integrity, bias. Thanks for listing bias. Dehumanize the process, yes. Because of course the patient is going to think as dehumanizing the process, but even for the doctors, it's also a tough job. And if you're not interacting with the patients, also dehumanize the doctors as well. If you're dealing with a computer rather than the patient directly. Okay, let's move forward because I want to finish in time. What strategies might we use to avoid those issues? Education, I see two education is good. We need to educate and make sure the healthcare professional knows how to use the tool. How much can we trust it? What is the threshold? How can they interpret the answer? Are we providing explainability around it? Opting into data set, okay. Involve stakeholders in the decision. Thank you. Yes. Transparency. Yes. Yes, check education, take an ethics workshop, good start. Feedback regarding diagnosis. So are we monitoring the system to see if the decisions aided by AI is actually having a good impact? Training, not as a replacement, but a clinical decision-making, extensive data analysis, and gain consensus on training education. Thank you. Very good, very good. Now, for patients, what are the potential ethical governance and fairness concerns? I would say first one is not to die. It's a good one. Privacy, thank you. Representability. Again, people have different bodies, and if you do a training data set on something and apply another one, it's not going to have the same result. Hacking, accuracy, consent, misuse of data, how the data is used, racism. There's a big impact on actually misogyny. I know on the study on pain meds, women are more likely to receive pain meds than men. And there's a whole historical reason for that, which is quite sad. But yeah, if you're going to learn now on medical records on women, then it's going to learn that women are going to need less pain medication, like painkillers. Very good. So what is the strategy that we can use to avoid these issues? I want to see more technical thing that I explained before on the strategies. Not seeing some keywords. You learn it. You're no more ethical, but you have a good memory. Consent, trust, transparency, ask questions, explainability, security, better education, empowers patients to ask questions. Good. Accessibility of data, working with the AI companies and stakeholders, strong education regarding AI, limited access to software, transparent process, very good. Give longer responses, regulations. I don't know if it's that about me or about it's a feedback. There'll be a feedback time, don't worry. Okay. Timely response, also very good. It's a good point. Let's move forward. We have time. Now for insurance companies, let's talk about money. What are their concerns? regarding potential ethical governance and fairness concerns for insurance money. Lawsuits. Yes, we make a decision to do brain surgery, like remove a tumor and the tumor is not there, or there is a tumor and didn't check, then what? Bias, cost, accountability, who's accountable for the whole process, accurate diagnosis, the costs, because again, there is associated cost in the sense to apply the system, but how much, which decisions the system is making, which would be more costly. Causality, are we checking for the real causes of items, validity of data, over reliance, and ethical practice. And one big one that I saw there that I don't see anymore is where it isn't. It is there. Fraud, right? Like fraud could be something that happening through hacking and many other systems. So, which strategies can we? Thinking about the insurance companies, which strategies can we do about it? I know it's repeating, and the strategies usually work for all of them, but it's good because then you're going to remember those strategies. Stakeholders, keep it accountable. 3 items that I talk. One is, wow, team diversity. Second one. That's good. It's good. It's fine. Okay. I'll get my lasagna and I go home. It's fine. Okay. 20 AI, be ethical. Lawyers. Lawyers is really a good time to be a lawyer. Team diversity, accurate AI, good communication, talk to the business leaders, correct reports, keeping accountable, consulting ethics committee. That's a good one. Thank you for whoever wrote this. Contextualizing case, very good as well. Talk to business leaders, diversity. Thanks again. Yes. Okay, good. I see some good answers now. Now I'm happy. Let's move. Okay. Again, a real world case. Hopefully you heard about it on IBM's Watson Health. So Watson was super famous. It's like won Jeopardy, quite great. And then it's like, hey, it should be great if we can do this now to hospitals. We can eradicate cancer. And they did not. They overpromise and under-delivering on these capabilities. They gave inaccurate and biased results in some cases. They actually proposed, and that's how everything went downhill, when they made an inappropriate cancer treatment recommendation. And they could not explain why, which is even worse, because the model was so smart, but also no explainability. So lack of transparency and explainability in its decision-making process. It was high cost, they invested a lot of money and did not get the results back, or financially speaking, was not good. And it was a limited evidence at the time that the system effectiveness and impact on patients' outcomes. And what happened is that they end up just basically selling all their assets to another company. Yeah, also, so the acquisition, also one other problem is they acquire a lot of company, like health companies through the IBMs to make it stronger. It was also very costly. But the doctors that were using were not satisfied. And yeah, so it was not a great experience. And that's one example that with the strategies we talked here could be helpful. Now, conclusions. Yay, almost done. Okay, key takeaways. You're no more ethical because of the workshop, but you are more equipped now to move on and do ethical decisions or have ethical conversations around that, and hopefully bring that to your businesses and the work that you have, especially if you're in the medical field, which is one that is crucial to think about that. Governance of AI systems inherently different. It's not the same as we talk about with software engineering. It's different and needs to be dealt in a different way. It's an emerging and moving area. As a society was constantly evolving, we're including more people and being more inclusive, but also the politics around it is different. Each country has its own process. In Canada, it's moving. Let's keep it that way. It's we have done a lot overall, I think, comparing to other countries, but there's still a lot more to walk. And it's important that we, the people, are part of this conversation, and we actually actively choose to talk about it and make those regulations and request those regulations, right? You all hopefully vote. That should be also now part of the conversation. Is the leaders that you're choosing ready to have this conversation? And then we need to appoint leaders of AI ethics. Not as a person is necessarily the ethical person, but a person that we can challenge someone that can think about it and then are always questioning the applications you're doing around AI on your work, on your business or education, and develop a framework of responsible AI. Again, fairness, machine learning, which we're going to have a talk with Dr. Niti here. It's a great way to start thinking about connect with people who don't know about it. Again, we rely on humans' knowledge, and it's time to do that. So AI governance is a responsibility of the industry, the organization, and development team, everyone. It's an ongoing process. Next steps. No, that's not a second step for you, but this one is. So CIO, which is now the Digital Governance Council, they have that I talk about it. This is the portal if you want to access them directly. They have some regulations, the first in the world, so have some standard around it. They constantly doing new regulations, having this talk. When I do the presentation that I do at Amy is in partnership with the CIO. And they're always inviting people to come to conversation. You can be part of it. You can bring your experience and like build new regulations together. And finally, one last tool is the algorithmic impact assessment. That's for free. It's available on the Canadian webpage. And it's basically a risk assessment that determines the impact level of your model. It composes of 48 risks and 33 mitigation questions. Assessment scores are based on many factors, including systems design, algorithm, decision type, impact, and data, and include impact and mitigation scores. The tool was based on best practices in consultation with both internal and external stakeholders, and it was developed in the open, and it's available to the public for sharing and reuse under open license. And it's good. And you're done. Just in time, 5 minutes. Great. Now, two things. We're going to do some final questions. I have 5 minutes for that. I highly appreciate your feedback. As someone that lives as a content, I always can improve. I already see some very good feedbacks in the break. Again, I'm also human. I'm always learning, and I appreciate the good and the bad feedbacks. I know I need to talk slower sometimes, but that's it. I'm Brazilian. Brazilian was destroying the Amazon forest, so shouldn't trust me completely. Do your own research. That's my webpage. I'm going to post all the results there later, get all the clouds and put it there under this talk. We have attached to other talks I have done. For more information, please contact Amy. It's a non-for-profit. We are here to help bring AI to all businesses, startup industry. And also I'm part of the training team, so also helping educating professionals to be ready to have the conversation on AI ethics, all the way if you want to become a machine learning technician. And we're done. Questions, comments, concerns? Thank you. Yes, the microphone is on the way.
This might be a somewhat in the weeds question, but one I'm curious about, and I assume someone here can answer. Regarding personal data, rights to personal data, likeness, healthcare information, etc. If you generally have a right to revoke that data, and someone trains a model on that data, and then the revocation, like how do how do you keep the model? How do you keep it from being prohibitively expensive to retrain the model every time someone revokes the data? Or alternatively, like, is there a contract someone can generally sign to waive that revocation right under EU?
Yeah, that's the tricky part, because once it's trained, and depending how it's trained, it gets inputted, and there's like a adversarial like research on, and there are some cases, some models that people were able to extract information to the original data by doing reverse engineering and get the original content. So technically, no, you cannot take some of the cases. It's there, and that's why you need to have the talk and the policy before it's trained. Because once it's trained, it's there, and on machine learning, it's not, because if you do overfitting and like you get to the point their face is completely part of the model, and then now if the model is intellectual property, as like your face part of the intellectual property, it's a tough conversation. Solution is not to happen because now updating the prior for image not to be there, it's tricky. I don't think they can reverse that easily. So I didn't answer your question because you can't. But yeah, that's all I know is the conversation has to happen before that.
Do you know of any like contract, like could a large enough company with a large enough budget feasibly, here's a contract, take a picture of yourself, we'll give you money. This is, you can't, no take backsies.
Yes, they can do that. But also all limited by costs and.
Right, yeah. I'm just wondering about the feasibility of that. Now, if you're doing millions of images, that might become very expensive, but.
Yeah, it is good because a lot of images, and especially in that case, in the clear view, was they use all the images, like everything was available on the internet. The whole scraping, that's what happened. It's like a regulation talk that needs to happen for everyone as in general. I think it's part of the government job as well, like France did.
Thank you.
Just to add to the comment, I think it's important to acknowledge that much health-related research is done using patient data, whereby consent is never obtained from patients, because you're dealing with anonymized data, or you're dealing with data that was collected previously that you're now accessing, and it would be deemed to be unfeasible or particularly challenging to reach out to individuals to obtain their consent to use their data. Most research studies where data is collected prospectively has in the informed consent conversation a position or a declaration of when it would be feasible to remove data. So for an example, like, once data has now been entered into an algorithm, it won't be feasible to remove it. So as a participant, you are only able to withdraw your consent up to a particular point. But it's a really important question you're asking.
Right. That's it for us. We're going to have now a very nice discussion. Thanks everyone for attending this workshop. Really appreciate your time.